Welcome back. Beautiful day here. My name is Ali, MMA Chaos, which you already know. Here on the title, we're going to be going over the first quarter of the year of the Paramount Era of 2026. My goal here in this video is to kind of go down throughout the highlights, honorable mentions, throughout the major fight events that have been going on since January to the end of March, since that is a quarter in by my knowledge. And I'll be rating them officially, giving what's my personal opinion through all the cards that I went through. There's going to be a lot of controversial topics, why I put some of them pretty low, some might be high, the way it started, and this is just my personal opinion. You know, we got here right now the front screen of the first quarter review of the UFC Paramount Era, and moving forward, we're gonna start here. The overview of the video, kind of like I mentioned, is I'll be going over my opinion on the first quarter of UFC, highlighting the ups and downs, as well with the expectations moving forward. A full rating as a fan and what to see done next. Obviously, as the first card we have here is the UFC 324, Gaethje versus Pimblett. Some of the big highlights from this card is obviously Gaethje defeating Pimblett, Silva defeating Allen, as well as Ty Miller defeating Adam Fugit. The overall rating I gave this was a 7 out of 10. The card was starting off pretty strong, especially how the new streaming service has made it just easier for you to log in, replay immediately. Some probably the best pros Paramount has is the immediate replay of previous fights. You miss anything, you could just go back and rewatch it. They have different offers, services of the languages. As well, it's not bad. I like the quality. They start off really strong with this. However, things start to take a quick turn, because after this, Volkanovski versus Lopez 2. Now, you already know my opinion about this. This was not a fight necessary, especially for Volk's legacy. They were really trying to push for Lopez for what God's sake and reason they had for it. I do remember during this Paramount, there was a little bit situation happening with the stream. But some notable fights from it, don't get me wrong, was BSD defeating Dan Hooker. That was an insane fight. Rufi defeating Fiziev. Insane finish. What a sniper. I really like this fight. As well as Sarkir defeating Malarkey. Now, the reason why it is lower than the previous one fight, because that's the expectation it came in. The main event of Volkanovski versus Lopez 2, it was kind of a letdown. Lopez didn't come in with a difference, without a change of a game plan. He kind of stayed still the same way. While he was doing really good while Volk was fighting on the right side, Volk switched to the left side and he looked stocked. Hardly any wrestling, hardly any engaging. The first fight was so much better that the second fight, Volk just was able to neutralize anything that Lopez was trying to accomplish in this fight. Obviously, there was a lot of finishes, and it could be higher, the rating, if you genuinely convinced me, but I gave it a 6 because the overall card was a sleeper. There wasn't anything else, not even the prelims, that made me wanted to watch it. On the second here, we do have the fight nights. Now, obviously, since there's 3 of them, I'm not going to go the entire card. All right, some of these cards, I'm already completely burnt outside of my memory. All right, they're gone, disappeared. But I'll just keep this sweet and simple. I'll give it a rating out of 5 out of 10. It was okay. All right. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great either. I mean, highlighting Bautista defeating Oliveira, that was a fight you would have seen a mile away. That would happen. Bautista finishing Oliveira, really good fight. I want to see him fight against Corey standing in next, since obviously Sean O'Malley is ducking Corey. I'm not saying he really is, but the UFC just doesn't want. I don't know why not. Why can't they just do what the fans want? And this is a problem. Some of these fight nights were hot dog water. All right. Sean Strickland versus Fluffy. Really good fight. What a nice laid up. Turns out that Fluffy had no answer. Sean has amazing takedown defense. We knew about that. Fluffy's striking is still subpar. It's not bad. It's not good. And Strickland just finishing him. Vintage. It's probably the best performance Sean Strickland ever had outside of the Izzy Adesanya, which fortunately is not looking that great since the next 3 opponents finished Israel and Sean wasn't. But to finish Fluffy, since Fluffy has been finished since Kevin Holland, he was on I think it was an 8-5 winning streak. And it's good. Obviously, Sean's fighting for the belt soon. So, exciting times for his career. The rest of those cards, I just can't really pick out of my mind a highlighting moment. They're like, oh, shoot. This is like, no. And Moreno versus Kavanaugh over there in Reno, Mexico. That was a really bad card. Just overall bad card. All right, it was a letdown. There's a couple, probably like 1 or 2 Mexican fighters that really popped out, but the rest, it just unfortunately, they just don't have that MMA genes over there. You know, it's going to be a while before we see a real contender in any weight class, right? They don't have a heavyweight. They don't have middleweights. They're too small. They don't have any lightweights. It's like just dangerous. They have that one dude who was going knocking out people really good. But that's it. Bantamweight, no. Flyweight obviously is just being overtaken by the Asian fighters. So UFC Mexico was just not good. I didn't like it. You know, I like the energy. I like the atmosphere. Obviously, extremely passionate fans. But they need strong MMA contenders. They need to start developing now, which I guess UFC is really doing really well with the UFC PI down there. But it got to start in school. You know, they got to have a wrestling program down there. They just don't have it. They have decent Muay Thai. Obviously, extremely well boxing. That's kind of the part of their culture. That's pretty much it. The Houston card, I gave that like a 6. It was a fun card. There's some decent fights in there. The Las Vegas Meta Apex, honestly, the only one I could just really genuinely remember was Bautista or Soloveda. The rest of the card was, Maybe I would be wrong. Maybe my memory is just that screwed up. But moving on, UFC 326 is probably the worst card of the year at this moment. Charles Oliveira versus Max Holloway 2. Obviously, the highlight was Charles defeats Max Holloway. A phenomenal performance. I think a lot of people were hating him because it was boring. And guess what? I hate to say this. It was. This was a BMF fight. You come in there with the expectation it's going to be a war. It's going to be a finish. It's going to be blood everywhere. But Charles fought to win because he wants to fight for the title. He wants that one more chance. And I don't blame him. All right. We always knew that Max had struggled against wrestlers. He never really fought against heavy grapplers in the featherweight division. I mean, name a wrestler grappler. All right. Conor McGregor was able to take Max Holloway back then. Obviously, years have gone by. But though his striking is extremely elite, there's just some areas in his jiu-jitsu and his wrestling that it wasn't until now that he fought the best submission grappler artist in the UFC history. He had great defense. He was stopping the submission attempts, but he had no answer on getting up and staying on the feet. Once Charles got literally an underhooks around him under his waist and got him to the ground, that was pretty much done. That's the rest of the round. Other highlights moving on from that. Dober defeats Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson was winning really well in the fight. He was a lot faster, hitting good shots. Dober was just able to overwhelm him and find his counter, knocking Michael Johnson out. Great fight over 2 legendary legend bets. You know, Gregory Rodriguez gets his get back against Bruno Ferreira. I went with Ferreira. I thought he was going to do the exact same thing as I did in the first fight. But Greg Rodriguez came back, obviously finishing him with only pretty much a single punch. That's pretty much it. Like to see him fight against Izzy next. It's a good chance for Greg to jump up the rankings and Izzy to say, hey, you got your last shot, man. This is a dangerous opponent. If you're not willing to put everything on the line, I do think you need to call it as a career. And then Alberto Montes defeats Torcios. What a performance. Obviously, Torcios is just a wacky, trying over and screaming, jumping around like a monkey. And Alberto Montes was able to just neutralize him, keep a calm composure, and then just give him an insane anaconda choke, which is pretty much just his signature right there. So Alberto Montes is someone to 100% looking forward in the future. Some strong fighters are coming down in South America. I'm really excited for this new era. I think a lot of great fighters are not fighting just out from Brazil anymore. There's some people like in Argentina, Ecuador, Venezuela. Prime opponents are fighting from that area. But my overall rating was a 4 out of 10. The rest of the card really was bad. It was bad. It was not good. Just, you can't have 3 fights finishes and a main card or a co-main that really just didn't sell. I hate to say that. All right, final thoughts on this one. This is the UFC Fight Night. It's the last 3. Obviously, we had Josh Emmett versus Vallejo. You have Evloev versus Murphy, and you have Adesanya versus Piper. First of all, Kevin Vallejos. My God. Featherweights are so good. It is truly, I think lightweights and featherweights are the best division of MMA, period. It goes from lightweights, which I could probably argue. I'm actually making this argument. If Ilya would have stayed at featherweight, it would have been featherweight, lightweight, and bantamweight, then welterweight. Those are the top 4. All right, these fighters are so good all around that you can't be one dimension. That obviously has always been a talk from how everything has changed to be an overall fighter. But these guys are taking it to the next level. Josh Emmett, he is a vet. He's been there, fought the who's who's. He's always going to get respect because he literally has fought in everybody. He is the RDA of the featherweight division. All right. He is the Gilbert Burns of the welterweight in the featherweight division. This guy legitimately is game, and I will always give respect to Josh Emmett because he has fought in who's who. Yes, he should retire. He's literally only won 1 fight out of the last, I think, 5 or 6 fights. But not taking anything away from Kevin Vallejo. Kevin Vallejo has put in a performance. Kevin Vallejo versus Jane Silva 2 would be insane. They fought for the first time, and Silva beat Vallejo. But Vallejo has came back as being everybody else. I would have loved to see Ilia Topuria still in the featherweight to fight guys like a Silva, like Movsar, like Vallejo. Right? Even just Murphy, who I'll go touchdown next, but still, the featherweight is looking insanely good with the talent they have. Next, we have Marwan defeats Harry. Phenomenal fight. I did add Orobai defeating Curtis. It was a boring fight. It was a wrestling, but I like Orobai. And what are you going to do? This is my channel. I like that dude. He has a pretty strong future. Obviously, he's fighting at 2 weight classes, at lightweight and welterweight, but he don't give a fuck. All right. Moving on. Mozart versus Murphy. Controversial fight. I liked it. It was fun. Mozart is entertaining. I don't get this hate. He's a decision merchant. It is what it is. That dude has power and punches, but he just doesn't let it go. Phenomenal grappling, but his jiu-jitsu is just not there. If I was him, I'll tell you, like, dude, okay, you know wrestling, you know how to dominate control. Let's take you to Brazil. Let's put you in those positions where you're able to find those submissions. I guarantee you, if Mozart would have come in a more of a Charles Oliveira approach of like, okay, I'm grappling and dominating you, putting you in bad positions. Let me finish this fight. He would have finished 8 out of his last 10 fights. Guaranteed. Evlov is obviously still undefeated. Had a controversial fight against Murphy. Obviously, he got the point deducted. Some people gave it to Murphy. Personally, I gave this a draw. I would say that Evlov won 3 rounds to Murphy 2. When Evlov decided to wrestle, everything is literally swayed dominantly to his side. Why he didn't do it in the beginning, I do not know. But the pressure for him to fight a different style just because UFC might cut him, not giving a title shot, is absolutely stupid out of the company. But Murphy won those 2 rounds. And obviously that deducted point, so it's an even 9-9. And then Evlov won the last 2 rounds. So it has to be a draw. But that would have just screwed the division even more. Silva would have gotten a shot. And Evlov and Murphy are stuck in the exact position. So I could see if one of the judges was like, you know what? I'm going to save this division real quick. I'm going to make it a majority decision. Anyways. Moving next. Mason Jones defeating Alex Salt. What a fight of the year candidate. That thing's at FOTYC. There's actually 2. I just noticed it right now, so I'm not saying that Grasso defeating Barber was a fight of the year. I'll get to that point. Mason Jones, what a dog. Alex Sola has an insane chin, brought it out of him, but Mason Jones was just able to overwhelm him. What a beautiful fight. Loved it. Loved every second of it. Moving on to the next one, Piper defeating Adesanya. Kind of was expected. I hate to say it. Breaks my heart because Adesanya really is looking up to his idols like Silva. But Piper was just overall a bigger, harder opponent. Adesanya had some moments he was winning the first round. But there's just something that it can't continue. Like there's a block where he's doing so well. Once that block comes, he's done. He can't overcome it. Grasso defeating Barber. I just noticed that I misspelled defeat. Barber, apologize that. What a finish. What a finish. I love this fight. Loved it. Grasso hit her with the 1-2 and immediately jumps her brick like a fucking panther. Like a python, like a snake, man. Like a cobra. Just immediately, instinctively, without even thinking. She went on her neck. Choked the lights out of her. And Barber was a dead woman. She was probably the first confirmed death in the MMA world in the ring. Grasso, I love her. But unfortunately, Grasso is still 2 more wins away from fighting a title again. Anyways, last one I want to say is the Musayev defeating Mahamondes. Great fight, great performance. The rating is still kind of low at 6 out of 10, even though there's 2 fight of finishes and fight of the year candidate. You must understand that I do base on this an overall card. The rest of the Seattle card was not good. The one in London, United Kingdom, was very boring, ended very abruptly. They had only 1 fight that sparked up the entire room, and the rest of it was dead from the beginning till the end. And then Emmett versus Vahil, same thing. It was in Vegas in the Apex card. We gotta shut it down. We gotta shut the Apex down. I'm sorry. So, what does this lead to? What is my overall rating? If you are decent in math, you could probably guess it. It's a 6 out of 10. It's not bad. It's not a passing score if you're on the academically side, right? 7 out of 10 technically is passing a C. It's a D rating. 6 out of 10. Technically, it was like a 5.6. overall, but we're gonna round it up, so it kind of getting a little, a little sad on that moment. But 6 out of 10. That's my final rating for the first quarter UFC. Now, with things I want to see change, the production value. There's so many moments in the UFC that, for some odd reason, the production went bad. From the lights of Charles Oliveira versus Max Holloway. What was that? The sound. The streaming ending and then turning on again. Paramount was doing a really good job compared to ESPN, but it's still not better, like way ahead. No. Fights. I know the White House is coming up. The next quarter will be really good, so I'm really exciting. We already have one awful fight night coming out tomorrow, but we do have the Jerry versus Oberg. We do have Sean Strickland versus Hamza, and we do have the White House. So I do believe the next couple months is going to be better. I hope the prediction gets better as well. Some fights that we want to see be making done. Fighter pay also increased. The same problems, same things going on. They got more money, but that also involves with more problems. But thank you for watching my video. I'll see y'all next time, and peace.